us here on My First Concert is Craig Baltzer, the executive director of the Monument, formerly the Rushmore Plaza Civic Center.
Correct.
How is that renaming been going over there? How many people are still calling it the Civic Center?
When I'm not accidentally calling it the Civic Center.
I was going to say internally.
We catch ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's going pretty good. I think people pretty much accepted that. Of course, it's something that people have to get used to.
Mm-hmm.
You've been calling it the Civic Center for decades.
Yeah.
And it's something people have to get used to. But I wasn't too worried about that. A lot of people were, but I've seen these naming changes going on in other cities. And once you get all your branding out there and you start getting the music industry and the event industry talking about it, claiming it's monuments on all their advertising, then it's a pretty easy switch. There's a tremendous amount of advertising out on the name, the monument, because every event we have over there markets, right? So it's a pretty easy switch in our industry. In another industry, a name change, that might be a lot more difficult.
Well, you're a South Dakota boy, aren't you, Craig?
Yeah, born and raised.
You're Sioux Falls?
Yeah, the wrong side of the state.
Yeah, I was
told.
no, we don't ever
It's all
really.
right. You fixed it. You made it right.
So, you high school out there, born and raised here in South Dakota?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
excellent.
Yep. I went to Lincoln High School in Sioux Falls. Graduated from there, went to the University of South Dakota in Vermilion, and graduated from there and went off into show business.
So, when you're a kid, when you're growing up in Sioux Falls, was this ever in your plan? Was this what you wanted to do when you were growing up?
Totally accidentally, yes. I remember this moment in my life. I just graduated from college, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And my job interviews were, and I'm not speaking against this, but it just wasn't seemingly right for me. My job interviews were at Citibank and State Farm Insurance, and it was not what I had in mind. My degrees were, business oriented and management oriented, and I was thinking, wait a minute, every part-time job I ever had something to do with selling popcorn, selling tickets, and putting on an event. I mean, I worked at the Sioux Falls Arena. I used to work at Wildwater West, Carts West as a summer job. I used to work in a movie theater. Everything I did had to do with selling tickets, selling popcorn, and putting on an event. And I had loads of part-time jobs all my life. So, I graduated from college and I went, ding, I need to go into that industry.
Right.
And I picked up and I moved to Minneapolis because there was a lot more opportunity there for that kind of a thing. And that's where that started.
So is it kind of in your family background too, or did you grow up around business oriented parents or other family members?
Not really, not in this business.
Sure.
Anyway. My father was an accountant.
Okay.
And my mother was she worked in hospital administration. So no, not at all. But they did love events. We grew up kind of poor. Mm-hmm. I mean, eventually you're going to get to the question of what was your first event, your first concert, and we grew up kind of poor. I didn't have tickets to the first concert I went to.
You want them on the radio?
Nope. I didn't have tickets at all. I worked it.
Oh, perfect.
My whole point in getting a job at the Sioux Falls Arena, and I would literally do anything that they wanted me to do, was because I could never afford to go to events. Mm-hmm. So, of course, the first event that they had me working was a dog show, picking up poop.
And it was that moment you're like, I found my calling.
But the next event was a concert, and I was kind of an usher type of, they used to do pat downs at the door instead of magnetometers and stuff like that. So I was kind of that guy, and it was all under the table. They paid you $25 for work in the evening, and I did that. And then, eventually was working security, and I was one of those guys with the arms crossed at the front of the stage, and I'm just in high school, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of fond memories over. My time working those part-time jobs. I even worked some spotlight operation. I would do anything that they wanted me to. And it was such a hit and miss part-time job. I mean, they only needed you when they had events that they needed staff for. So I used to just tell them, I'll do anything. And okay, well, we need you in the stagehand group, or hey, we need you in the security group, or we need you in the usher group, or the operations group. But I used to work just about anything I could out there because I loved events.
That's awesome. That's so cool because our very first interview for this podcast was with Bob Zort, and he said his first concert was at the Sioux Falls Arena.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he went and saw Molly Hatchet, is what he's saying.
Molly Hatchet?
Yeah, that was it.
I started there. It must have been 1978 when I started working there. And by 79, I was working a lot of events. And I just remember a string of events, like my first concert. I can't remember which one. It's one of the string of Cheap Trick, April Wine, REO Speedwagon, Rick Springfield, ZZ Top. I mean, there was just a slaughter of they all, in a way seemed very similar
right,
kind of music,
sure.
And I just remember doing that. There might have been one country show in there or two, but we just had a slaughter of them back then. But I remember I had another part-time job, but that part-time job, I would put all that money away, and that was for dating. That was for putting gas in your car and taking a girl to a movie or whatever, and I finally could afford to take a girl to a concert, and that concert was Styx, Paradise Theater, and I had seen a lot of concerts by that time because I was working at the Sioux Falls Arena. I had never seen somebody with a production because it was very theatrical, Paradise Theater was, and a lot of lights and a lot of and then I compare that to what even the smallest show does today.
Right.
And it's nothing compared to what's out on the road today.
I think it's interesting that you said that you had you had this job to put money away to take a girl out to go to a show and do fun things. Same reason why a lot of guys pick up a guitar and start playing in a band is to meet girls. There's this whole connection right there. Now it's all making sense to me.
Exactly.
So you've obviously then, Craig, seen a lot of changes in this business from when you were first standing in front of the stage there as that security guard, getting paid under the table, to, like you said, these productions that happen now.
Right.
I mean, has it been kind of unbelievable for you in a sense?
Actually, it's kind of unbelievable the way we did it back then. Safety was not a factor back then, and if you remember, you guys are not old enough, but a lot of people my age will remember when they went to their first concerts, there was no chairs on the floor at all. Everything was a big pit, right? And I remember the job being security on the front end of the stage was not to necessarily, of course you were there to prevent people from getting on the stage or causing trouble that way or anything like that, but we didn't have much of that. The number one job we really had to do was we stand on our little elevated position over the top of the barricade looking at the people and going, are you okay? Are you okay? Because they're being pushed up against that barricade from the back, and you would see it in their face. They're starting to get a little faint. They're starting to get a little white. And I go, are you doing okay? I don't know. And then no, I got to get you out of here. And you'd lift them out, and you'd put them on your side of the barricade, and you'd hand them to the next security guard, and they would take them to the next security, and they'd take them to the end, and that's where the EMTs were. And I'm just amazed that we didn't have a lot more deaths back then and all that.
Sure.
I mean, moshing really wasn't a thing or anything like that, but it was just the push of the crowd to going forward.
Right.
It was really, really dangerous, and nobody would really do it that way. I mean, nowadays you have some shows that have open GA floors, but they have some rules on there. Even a mosh pit has its own set of rules, that is policed by the fans themselves. There's a lot more attention on safety, both by the fans and by the productions and the venues now. Back then, it was a free for all, and the whole thing was the Wild West. in that industry back then. I mean, even into the early 90s.
Right.
It's become so much more corporate now. But I mean, the bands used to never leave their dressing room, right? We used to be going, hey, we got to get ready for the Sportsman's show the next day. You need to go. Well, hell, you're going to have to throw us out, because that's where the party was. They would bring all their backstage people and everything to the dressing room. It'd be a big party back there after a show. And it was always fun and kind of exciting, but also pain in the butt, because we had to get the building ready for the next day. That's all changed. Artists are typically going to an after party that they're being paid to attend. There's really nothing unscheduled. Usually when a concert ends, and the lights stay down, the band leaves the stage and the lights stay down, everybody knows there's going to be an encore. So, everybody stomps their feet, and then the encore comes. And then after the encore, the lights stay down for about 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then all of a sudden all the lights come on. See, everybody's thinking there might be another encore. Then there's not. The lights come on. Everybody knows. Go home at that point in time. But what they don't know is the band is leaving. The band is on the bus or getting in the limo and going to the airport, and they're off the property before the show is even properly ended, because they don't deal with any after show rigmarole or anything like that.
Well, that's one thing I thought was interesting when we got the early tour of the Summit.
Yes.
That they explained that now on the back end of that, where the buses are park, you guys have installed places for the buses to plug in and kind of amenities that go, because they don't even come to the backstage area anymore. There are a lot of them just stay on the bus.
Yeah, it gets a little bit infuriating sometimes, because you get a tour rider, and the tour rider is, unless you negotiate in advance, the tour rider's the Bible. You got to do the tour rider. You got to so you'll have an artist, and a lot of their, like the backup singers or some of the other band members, they'll use their dressing room and all that. But a lot of times the stars don't. And here you put this huge buffet in the star dressing room for them because they requested it in the rider, and they never even use it. One of the shows that I was always like amazed at some artists and their lifestyle, right? And it doesn't matter who they are. It could be a country, it could be a rock artist. It doesn't matter. I just amazed at their lifestyle. And my favorite one, and this was back in the late 90s, and I was running a building in Tampa, Florida, what is now the Amalie Center. And we would have Jimmy Buffett, because it's Tampa. We'd have him every year.
Of course.
And he would come in by boat, and our arena sat on the water. And he'd come in by boat, and right across the lane from us was Marriott Hotel, and they had some docking there and all that. And he'd have a slip there, and he'd come in off his boat, barefoot, walk across the street into the arena, right on stage. Somebody'd hand him a guitar, and he'd play. And then when the show's over, good night, Tampa, and he would walk right back out, right back off the dock onto his boat.
That's awesome.
And we'd be sitting there going, we put all that stuff in your dressing room. You didn't use it, But that's how it was,
So you've obviously worked in some bigger markets then too, from Florida to. So what brought you back here, Craig, to run this?
Well, a couple things. First of all, South Dakota's home to me, and it was always a dream of mine to live in the Black Hills, because I'm kind of an outdoors guy.
Because you're East River, that's why. Wanted to.
Every family vacation we had was coming to the Black Hills, right? So, that was part of it. Getting closer to family. I had been away for such a long time, and parents are getting older, and health issues and that kind of thing. That felt right. But I discovered this after the interviews and all that stuff, that I took a look at it and I thought, I might be able to help. The place was run really, really well, and every manager that comes and runs a facility, and this is my take on it. The other managers in the country would probably disagree with me on this, but it's my take on it. Is everybody's got a different thing, and you bring your bag of tricks, and you come in and you make the place better, and you're probably good for 10, 15 years, and then another guy needs to come in and put his bag of tricks in there. And so I was looking at what was going on at the Civic Center, and I did have exposure in other venues and other markets and all that kind of stuff. And I used to work for a large management company that used to manage facilities like this for cities and that stuff. I worked for them for 20 years. So I was really connected with 250 facilities. I used to open up buildings for them. I used to be involved in opening up new venues for them and that kind of a thing. So I had experience in that. And I took a look at the situation. I said, I have the right bag of tricks for Rapid. I can help here. There's some things I can accomplish here. So it really was, and that was kind of important to me. I'm a little later in my career. I'm not necessarily climbing ladders anymore. This was more of an equal, but it was more about quality of life and having some value in my position. And I thought I could help here. So,
well, and it was obviously over the past few years pretty contentious with the new arena. I mean, we obviously had people on both sides, and now that it's here, and now that it's built, and people have got a glimpse of it, do you, in the people you work with and your whole department there, do you guys feel that it's kind of shifted a little bit to a more positive experience for people? I mean, that they're what am I trying to say here? They're not as angry about it anymore now that they've had a chance to see what we've done.
Yeah, I can say that, first of all, we had a pretty strong vote, and I think that helped a lot because there were people who were kind of against the idea and saying no and voted no. And a lot of that was they're worried about spending this kind of much money and it being maybe a possible failure, or maybe there's other places that money could be spent and that kind of thing. And there's no denying any of that. What I like about the debate on that, the mayor did like 80-some 2.5-hour presentations that were more of an education class of how these venues and why they're good for cities. I mean, first of all, they're owned by governments, around the country. Rarely are they owned by a private industry, and that's because they don't really make money. What they do is they create economic impact and that kind of a thing, and that's why cities benefit from them, or counties, or government benefits from them. So there was a lot of education on that, and I'm going to tell you, I thought it was a strong vote. There were certainly still people who were anti it, and I'm going to tell you, I'm sure not all of them, but some of them have taken the time when we had an open house and we did tours of the building, and now they're seeing it from the inside, not just from the outside, and they start understanding the image, and we start announcing events that are going in. I agree that there are a number of people who've kind of, this might be a good thing. This is looking like a good thing, and I'm going to tell you, it is built right. It is 100% built right. We wanted to build this. We did not want all the flash. I didn't want beautiful flooring and gorgeous chandeliers up and down the concourse. I don't want to spend my money on that. We wanted to spend it on making sure it operates really, really well for our clients, the shows that are renting the space, and also for the audience that are coming in the front door. And for $130 million, I think we got exactly what we were looking for. And now it's about, and it's really unfortunate that, it was kind of a amazing thing that we were able to complete construction and everything during COVID and all that. We were one of the only major construction sites in the entire country that didn't close down, and we got it because that would have ended up costing us a lot of money if we had to close down that site. But in the end, we're still in a COVID era, and that has the industry, and especially the music industry, the show business industry, is really trying to find a way to get it going now. And I've got holds all over my calendar, but it's almost like, hey, we're starting over with the whole business idea of what touring's all about and all that. It's kind of changed, and you see all over the country postponements, cancellations, and we had a couple of them ourselves. it's just kind of back to the Wild West in
Right.
the industry a little bit. But I think that as we go forward, I'm seeing things starting to gel a little more and connect a little more. And we're going to get some of those big shows. Rapid City's not a huge market. I can't do one every month. Our market's not strong enough to do that. But the ones that used to pass us up on the highway are now going to stop. And, Morgan Wallen's a good example of
Right.
that. That's a really good example of that show.
Yeah, and that's do you hold on, let me pause right there for a second. I had the question and then it slipped right out of my head.
Well, I was going to say too, like you don't just like stop. Like the world doesn't just stop for whatever extended period of time that it did,
Right.
kind of depending where you are in the country, and then everything just goes back to normal as it was before that. We all kind of, especially in the music industry, there's going to be a new normal for touring and for promotions and stuff like that. And there's no way it'll go back to being exactly what it was before the pandemic,
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me, and it depends on where a lot of these artists are in their career. There are some bands that are, we need to work. We need to make some money, and there were other bands that, hey, we can sit back a little bit. We can do some other things and other projects right now, and we don't need to be out on the road right now. But it's kind of getting to the point now where, they all got this is how they make their money now. I mean, that was one thing, and a big change in the industry when we were talking about over the years, the changes in the industry. One of the biggest changes in their industry was downloading music. Mm-hmm. I mean, a huge, huge change in the industry. Of course, that was a big change in your industry as well.
Absolutely.
And touring shows, and this is how I see it. Touring shows who used to go on the road and do concerts to promote their album because they made all their money on the album. Now they're dropping a single to promote their tour, and they got to make all their money on the tour. So that's when you saw ticket prices go way up, and everything started changing there. And nothing's changed that more than that. So these music artists are heavily reliant on touring now. That's a big part of their income, and so they got to tour, and we're starting to see that where even the larger artists are saying, you know what, I'm going to go out in fall of 2022. I'm going to go out, and we're starting to see more and more. In fact, what I'm worried about is if it goes the way it's starting to look, we might be oversaturating the country in music all at once. You know what I mean? And there's just not enough ticket buyers out there for all that.
Well, and you had to take all of that into consideration when you were designing and building the summit too, because I think part of the plan is to make it, you want to make it as easy and accessible for an artist to come in. You've got 5 bays out there for semis, I believe.
Yep.
So they can all back in and get loaded and unloaded and stay out of everybody's way.
Yep.
I know that was a big deal for you guys, I think.
Yes. So what you're alluding to is the fact that in order to attract these large shows, I mean, first of all, you have to have the venue that can play their show, that can fit it in there. You also have to have the venue that can unload their trucks quickly, set up a show, do a show, tear down the show, unload the trucks, all in one day so they can get to their next stop the next day, right? Which means we need space for that, and we need loading docks for that. And so we needed to build all that in. And this is what some people don't, really kind of get. I mean, when, whoever it is, some big artist, it could be, Justin Timberlake, what he's getting in Denver, to play in Denver in a 20,000 seat arena in a big market like that, where you have a lot more opportunity to sell a lot more tickets, same price as it is to play him in Rapid City. Mm-hmm. So where is Justin Timberlake making his money? He's making his money in the A markets. That's where he's making his money, in the 20,000 seat arenas. Now, a 20,000 seat arena in Rapid City would have been way overkill.
Sure.
And at 10,000 or 11,000 seats, we can maybe attract a Justin Timberlake. But he's not stopping here to make a buttload of money. Mm-hmm. He's stopping here because
it routes.
It's routing, right? He's going from Minneapolis to Denver, and he's got a time in between to stop one place, and at least it pays some payroll, at least it pays some bills. And when you're in that position, you need to make it easy for them. They need to get in and out and make it really easy so they want to stop again next time, or his production team has a different concert and they want to stop in next time. So the whole idea was make our building easier to work with for the shows than other venues that I compete with. And I think we accomplished that. And we've heard from some of the big shows that we've already done. Zach Brown really went out of his way to talk to us about how well that the building worked out for him and that kind of a thing. But if you're the Target Center in Minneapolis, and this is true, their load-in scenario is horrible.
Really?
Right? But you're the Target Center in Minneapolis, you're going to get the show. Right? So that's kind of, we have to be a little bit better. We have to be a little bit different that way. So that's why we spent all of our money on making sure it operates really well.
Well, and you'll get the word of mouth then from those production companies. Zach Brown's people will tell the next one and the next one, and hopefully
it's a small industry.
Right.
I mean, when I was on tour, and by the way, I wasn't on tour. Well, I was on tour for a short time with concerts, but I was on tour. My main gig was a family show. But I mean, all the productions, even my family show production and our backstage team, we were connected with comedians and concerts and all that kind of stuff. It's a small industry. And you knew which buildings were hard to work, which ones were good. You knew that. You knew which ones had good food and which ones had terrible food. You knew all of that. And just being in the industry for a year or two, you've got all that down. So, yeah, that's a fact.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, there's like 1% of people that know what it takes for the logistics of a concert to come in and set up like that. And so, yeah, just the pool of not just musicians, but just like industry people is incredibly, incredibly small.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, it takes, I mean, some of our larger shows that we've done, even before we built the Summit, the stagehand call would be 130 people. That's local people, working on the show, and with the labor issues today and COVID still out there and all that, that is so tough to meet those requirements now. But yeah, I mean, even like some of our theater shows, our Broadway shows, we were talking about 60 stagehands just for unloading and putting that show on and loading it back up and getting it out. So that's a lot of people.
Now, you said you were part of a touring show?
I was. My first professional job out of college was working for Sesame Street Live.
Oh, okay.
And they were produced and promoted out of Minneapolis at that point in time. And so I connected with them, and I went on tour with them for 8 years as a tour manager.
I was kind of hoping you were in costume in one of those.
Oh, no. But some summers you would make all my money in 9 months, and then I would have the summers off because the tour was off. And some summers I would my tour ended. I was in Europe. I backpacked Europe, and one other year my tour ended in Hawaii. And I thought, I'm just going to stay in Hawaii for the rest of the summer. But most years I was looking for another gig just for the 3 months of the summer, and that's when I did some concert touring and things like that.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
So do you remember that moment, Craig? I mean, you've kind of hinted around a little bit about it, but can you remember that moment when you stood there in that arena, or you were watching that show, or you were doing security somewhere, where you thought, "Yep, I'm going to make this my entire life"? Do you remember the show, or do you remember that moment at all?
Yeah, I can probably the most memorable moment like that. I mean, when I was there's a couple of them. When I was working in the Sioux Falls Arena, I knew I loved this.
Right.
But I was born and raised in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. At that time, they had one arena. There was really no production in Sioux Falls going on. There was really no tours, coming out of Sioux Falls and traveling the world. So there was limitations, and I didn't understand that I could go somewhere else. And then my horizons were broadened. So it wasn't until I was after college that I really thought about it. And then I said, that was the moment that I went, I'm going to go into, I have background in it. I love it. My business background can help with this. I have some stuff here. I understand tickets and popcorn and putting on a show. And that was the moment that I kind of said, I'm going to take a stab at this industry. I'm not going to go work for an insurance company. I'm not going to go work for Citibank. And then probably one of the other moments was when I got off the road and I was working in an arena, and we had 20,000 people. I can't even remember what show it was because the show didn't matter. It was a rock show, and there was 20,000 people in that arena. And I remember just standing on the floor, looking out to the audience right by the stage and looking at the audience and seeing everything. And all I could think was, everybody's having a great time. And in my mind, I'm like, and I'm running this whole dang thing. And I was like, and even though that was not entirely true, I had a lot of staff and all that kind of stuff, but there was a lot of pride in that moment. And I think that was the moment I kind of said, you know what, working in venues is where I want to be, and not necessarily on the road touring with shows. Working in venues is where I want to be. So.
I just find that so interesting that you can stand there and look out at that crowd like the lead singer of the band that's about to come on stage can look out at that crowd and be like, it's me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I mean, you know what I mean. It's not a really an arrogant thing, but you're like, I helped make all of this possible and put every smile on that person's face.
Right. I mean, you know that the artists often say when you see them on talk shows and stuff, they said, you know what? It's the audience that gives us energy. It's the audience that does that. You know what? They're not just placating people.
Right.
They mean that. That is something that drives the whole thing. When you've got a large crowd and everybody's enjoying themselves and everybody's having a good time, that's what it's all about. I mean,
right. Well, Andy, you can speak to that.
Yeah,
obviously.
I was going to say, it's like there's like no feeling like that even compares to it, like knowing or watching somebody like sing back a lyric to you that you wrote by yourself in your car, you know. It's like putting together details or organizing events, which we've done together as well.
Yes.
You know, and seeing that all come to life, and you're just like, oh my God, I had this idea, and like now it's real, you know, it's in front of me now. You know, there's nothing that even compares to that. It's wild.
Now, it's a little different from him because I've always been in management, you know.
Right.
I'm not the talent. Now, see, the girls are screaming for Andy.
Yeah, they love the short little bald guy playing guitar up there.
In my head, I'm thinking, yeah, they're screaming for me too, but they're not. They're not.
So do you still have the same passion for this, Craig? When like Morgan Wallen walks out on that stage in May, are you gonna have that? Do you have that same feeling when you look out and see that as you did?
You know what? It's almost always the same when you run, and it doesn't matter if it's a theater show or it doesn't. When you have a big trade show when you get out of your office and whatever crap you're dealing with in your office, whatever headaches are hitting your desk that day, and you get out of your office and you go look at the crowd and you watch how your staff is intermingling with the crowd and how that's all working. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, you get that same feeling just about everything that you do and every event that we do. I actually love it. I've always loved it. It's been in my blood. And I think for a lot of people, this industry is not necessarily for them because it is working, 8 to 5 during the week and then evenings and weekends. And it's easy to put in 60, 70 hours a week
right.
For a lot of staff. But a lot of people just end up doing that and dedicating that much time to it because you know what, I love this. This is a lot of fun. And we get a lot of people transferring from other industries because they were tired of sitting at a desk from 8 to 5. I mean, in our jobs, probably your jobs as well, you're not a clock watcher. Mm-mm. I mean, you the day goes woof, and so I think for that, and there's a certain amount of self-satisfaction. No, we're not solving cancer. No, we're not doing any of that, but we're spreading joy and happiness and being a part of that. People, when they come to the monument, they're expecting to have a good time.
Right.
And for the most part, I think everybody does.
Well, I think, you guys, since you've gotten through all this and the summit's up and it's running and there has been some shows in there and people have seen it, you guys have done a fantastic job with it. I mean, I think it kind of went even above and beyond what people were expecting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, when I think that's where the trust comes in. Mm-hmm. That's where the trust comes in at the vote. And the people who were against it, and some of them may still be against it, and they may have some good reasons to be anti spending the money there or wherever and all that. But a lot of people, I think it was more of a trust thing that, really, what are you going to build here, And as we gave the tours, that's kind of what I saw. I saw people going, oh, wow, this is like a real arena. And we needed to build an absolute multi-purpose arena that can do every event very, very well, and be very flexible in sizing and all that stuff. We put a lot of thought and work into all that, and we got what we were looking for.
Excellent. Well, it's been great talking with you, Craig. This has been a lot of fun. Well, I think a lot of people feel like, well, how exciting can it be to do a job like that? But you have enough stories and you have the background. It is exciting. I mean, and if somebody was taking that business degree and coming out of college and be like, man, what am I going to do with this? Oh,
Yeah.
What do you have advice for people like that, Craig?
I would say that, that I was not a person that went to college to follow, to build a career. I went to college to follow my interests. Mm-hmm. And I think that whatever job you do, it's got to be something that you find interesting and that you have yourself invested into it a little bit. And I really would say follow your interest because, there's a lot of people that are in a dead-end job or a job that they don't like or they hate. And this is not a cut because there's some people that do very well at salesmanship or accounting and they love numbers or whatever. Not everybody's cut out to stand in front of the audience and deal with what I have to deal with. And that's talking to people and making sure that everything's all right and handling, all their little problems and issues. There's gum on my seat. Well, let's get you a new seat, or whatever. So I'm dealing with that. Not everybody's for that, but I would say follow your interests. Look at your passions and follow your interests.
Awesome. Thank you, Craig. This has been a lot of fun. We appreciate you coming in and doing this.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
This is actually better than I thought it was going to be.
Awesome. No, it was great. Yeah, we really appreciate you coming in here.
Take that as a giant compliment right there, Craig. Yeah.